Hello. Here we are. Are you hyped? I just came from a Gamer Muscle stream who's been streaming for 8 hours around the release of the trailer. I don't know how you fill the time. I already see 10 minutes, a lot of time to fill until it airs. Yeah, I think if you're hyped, it can only go wrong. I think people have wildly differing expectations. Oh, Conrad, actually it was good. After we saw that your S10 is 5 seconds clear, we gave up on the win, which made the rest of the race much easier. So we didn't have to push that much. So let's see, what are you guys expecting? Or what are you wishing? We should separate the two. Wishing and expecting are very, very different things, I'd say. Oh, it's mega. Car was absurd. Zu iRacing? Nee, warum sollten wir denn zu iRacing wechseln? Das macht doch gar keinen Sinn. I don't know. There wasn't any hint. I think there's the only hint we have really is the Steam page of AC Evo, where you'll have, what do we have there? 28 screenshots and a short video. That's what we have on the AC Evo page on Steam. And all of these screenshots are, if I'm not wrong, road cars plus a Porsche Cup, I think. Then we saw a bit wet patches on a few tracks, which looks like Brands Hatch, which looks like the Nordschleife, which looks like Imola. And yeah, so we know Imola, Brands Hatch, Nordschleife, we know Rain, we know Night, we know one Porsche Cup and a few older and newer road cars. So yeah. Which doesn't make enough for a game to buy, right? So let's see if the trailer holds something for us. Hey Sasha. I thought I'd just jump on a Sharon real quick. And I guess it's also going to be... Fine. Danke. Machst du ran, Vivi? Danke dir. All right. Yeah. So what does it tell us? Assetto Corsa EVO, driving simulation evolved. So things just better. Now I feel what we're all still kind of missing is any idea of what the game's gonna be, right? And with the portfolio of Kunos, we have a bit of options. There is the kind of open platform Assetto Corsa, but it was not made like open platform, right? They just started a game and kind of became open platform over the years, but it isn't, or it wasn't by the day it was released or something. So there's this probably this big expectation by everyone to just have, hey, let's just have a better platform and flood it with mods. I don't see that personally. And then there is perhaps this expectation of just having a huge variety of cars, from road and classic race cars, and you get DLC packs with all cars from slowest to fastest, right? So from Formula 1 down to your Miata. Rainer, die haben eigene Fahrer in der Community, keine Sorge. We'll get weather, apparently, by the screenshots, which, of course, the old Assetto Corsa didn't have. Wait, I lost the chat here. And then we have ACC, which is very narrow content, right, and very focused. So anywhere in between open world to focused content, everything's still possible somewhat, right? But maybe it's 3 minutes until we have a few questions answered, or we have even more questions, and I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, I understand everybody's on ACC. We just want the physics fixed and improved, right? And back to more complex rain, more detailed differences in how the cars behave. It's got all watered down a little bit. But I also feel we should be able to have more than GT3 to 4, because it does get dull, right? I personally need faster cars. I need proper sharp race cars. And yeah, maybe also a couple slower but race cars. I'm not too much of a fan. Just racing road cars is weird, and also with the whole BMW affiliation we have, just having cup races basically in Mazdas or Porsche Cups doesn't really get us anywhere as a BMW esports team. Hey Harry, actually I can send you DM. But yeah, as soon as it's available, I guess. Sascha, das eine ist für Discord, das andere ist für den Stream, weil das Discord-Ding, das ist natürlich hier nur so ein billiges Headset-Mic. Und das hier ist halt ein gescheites, ne? Mit guter Qualität. Different car track combos, yeah. Like basically, we need the variety of Automobilista and iRacing, just with proper Kunos physics and not the weird trail braking dependent driving in iRacing, and not the slidey stuff in Automobilista. But also, Automobilista doesn't have proper MP, so we need ranked multiplayer like in Gran Turismo. So the best of every game, and we expect no less from Kunos, right? So I have a feeling we can really only be disappointed. But it's not long to go now, so let's see. Stopping the music here, and then I hope 60 seconds pass. Oh, it's awful? What's awful? Premiere will begin shortly. Come on, don't let us wait. Lombardy. Perhaps overtime. I think overtime. I don't think ACC can stay alongside. Maybe in the beginning, while AC EVO evolves. But I think down the road it will be difficult for ACC to keep a platform like, or keep an audience like old AC did alongside ACC, right? So I think EVO will try to replace old AC and ACC and bring the people back together, which would be 20,000 people playing simultaneously all the time. So which would be as big as iRacing in an instant. So let's see. Premiere will begin shortly. Oh, something changed. I saw something blink here. Nothing happened. AC front end feel. The thing in AC1 front end field was a bit it was always pointy and perhaps too pointy, but I think I know what you mean. And the enhanced understeer was too... Okay, here we are. Oh no. We wait. Refresh. Oh, I need to roll forward, right? I'm doing it faster. Okay, that's as far as we can go. I can't. Oh damn it! I forgot to set the stream to. Forgot to set the stream to low delay. I think when you do a live premiere, you always have this waiting time. You can't get around it. Full screen. Well, I'm gonna have to keep the window here because I'm on the ultra wide screen right now. So this is the biggest we can go, I think. Oh, there we are. I'll just shut up.
This is not about your age. This is not about your car.
BMW.
It isn't about your experience. It isn't about performance or power. And it isn't about how you portray your love for driving. Because car passion is a state of mind. And it's driven by heart.
It does say in-game footage at the bottom. They had to show a part. Oh wow. Okay, so we're really just getting a teaser, not a trailer. That's it, guys, I think. Was that a minute? Are we smarter? So I think let's go to the page because we'll have to jump back a little. And oh, that was actually stupid. Here, we need to go back in time to where it all started. So, from here. An old Porsche. Then, what else was there? Well, BMW road car. Then there was... Okay, that was some talk. But we want to go for the in-game footage.
And it's driven by heart.
And it starts here with the Alpha. What's that? The Juliar AMG? What was it? Juliar something, right? A McLaren, also road car, definitely road car. Some say race car. Ignore the live chat, it's awful. So one thing we don't have in ACC is the cars are mainly only modeled on the outside, right? Everything in the internals except the cockpit isn't really there. The engine isn't there. Suspension hardly there. Floor not really there. Seems like EVO is going to be more detailed with car parts and everything. Saying GT7 I think is a stretch. Here we have the Cup Porsche. So we have a race car. Which track is this? That looks like Brands Hatch, right? That must be... That's Brands Hatch with the narrow curbs there. Ray tracing seems confirmed. There like newer things of race tracing these days? Isn't race tracing already last gen? So then there is Cup Porsche, okay. Weather, clouds. I liked one detail here, which was, yeah, okay, we get the drops on the windshield and all, and I think if we need to slow this down, probably. I also need to dissect this a little. Maybe without the sound. Not much to take from it, right? What I like here, though, that in the puddles, you can see the wind creating a bit of waves here. Nice. Kind of that's one of these typical Kunos things where you have a detail that's completely useless but looks great. The track with the Mini, let's go back to the Mini perhaps. If we... Let's roll it backwards. The track with the Mini. So we saw Brands earlier, we saw Imola. I'm not sure which track has those style curbs. But look at how... damn it, they should have given us the second bounce. Maybe Donington, indeed, yeah, could be. With the poles there. Look how the car moves. With a gentle slide. Diving into... there's so many detail in there. Lower again. Look how the car then dives into the suspension of the front left once it regains the grip. Wait for it now. It's so short. So we get the detail. The car is fully modeled in 3D, not just around the outside. The cables. Easy off meta on a 50-year-old car. Yeah, unrealistic. Yeah, even here there's a bump exiting. Wait for it. There's a bump when the Porsche exits the pit lane or the garage. Here's a bump. Look at it. You can see it. Probably doesn't get across nicely here in my stream. Okay, that's Brands. I guess you're analyzing bumps now. I mean, we kind of have to, looking at ACC. It's one of the factors people not playing ACC. They just stole all the mods. So what do we have here? Sun coming down, kind of being broken, hazy through the windshield. Is the wiper moving? The wiper is moving a little in the wind and over the bumps, so we keep that from ACC. Can you scroll? Oh yeah, sorry, my fault. True. Now full screen doesn't work. I'm on the 49-inch, then you will not see the borders, I guess. Yeah, it doesn't work. Full screen wasn't a good idea. Secret pressures on the Cup car. So let's keep going. So okay, clouds moving. We should now be very, very detailed about the clouds. Is it the same cloud moving all over again? Or is it different clouds? So there's weather progression. You can see the fog coming in and out through the trees there, right? So it's more of a 3D fog and cloud, at least in this image. You never know how much actually makes it into the final game once optimization is done or something. And it's supposed to work on all PCs, not just 50 series NVIDIAs. Well, I guess you can just use reshade probably in the end to get your own kind of color mixture. So some red lights reflecting on the ground there. Okay, nothing out of the ordinary. We should probably see how the... Oh no! The headlights. I was on about the headlights. Here. The headlights, how they reflect from the side of the track and things like that, and how they enlighten the grass. If the grass is 3D, we need 3D grass. Well, how many tracks do have the... What's it called? Something something wheel? That's Nordschleife with the something something wheel, and there's Suzuka with the something something wheel, but this is not a curb I know from Suzuka. Ferris wheel, yeah. The curb is too narrow for Suzuka. What would that be? Oh yeah, is it towards the last corner, perhaps? View towards the last corner in Suzuka? No. We have agriculture here with the rows where they can plant the seeds. I didn't know Brands has a Ferris wheel. With the M4, that was right in the beginning, right? After the M4 was here, right after the Alpha and at the McLaren, right? McLaren reflections in a tunnel, it looked like. There's the Mini. Where's the BMW? Does it come next? Alpha. Then Alpha drifts. SS in Sector 1 could be, but the Ferris wheel is on the right then. Maybe, you know, maybe it's Suzuka reverse into the S's. At the start, second car. Sorry, I'm too far. So here, right after the Alpha. So this looks... why does it... Where was the BMW? BMW is gone. Disappeared. Damn it. Where was it? Faster. Oh, normal speed is actually much faster than what we've been doing. Okay, we're not getting the BMW again, apparently. It went from Alpha to McLaren to Mini. At the was it before? Is it oh, okay. Here. Before we even get to 017. That's a couple seconds out. Sorry. I thought in-game footage started with the Alpha. That's on me. Here. The Driver's Joy suspension from Bilstein. Yeah, that's the restaurant on the Nürburgring. We're hardly seeing shadows yet, are we? Yeah, but that is the restaurant at the Nürburgring. That's actually where we ate during the Hyundai track drive. But look at something, guys. I already saw this on the screenshots. Watch the headlight, okay? Take a look at the headlight, and everything inside the headlight seems 3D modeled. Look at it. They showed so shortly. Maybe we see it on other cars as well. But that's what I mean. The 3D model is insane. Right, even there you could see it. When things move around, then you can see just the headlights. That everything in there is actually a 3D shape. It's just not some light source point. Yeah, it's gonna be good for the photographers. And I personally don't underestimate how important a good photo mode is in the game. Like, if you can make it look great and people will enjoy making nice pictures of your game, then you have the PR done. Then everybody will share nice pictures. See the headlights, the 3D shape inside. You can really see the rounded part of the headlight disappear as you go towards the side. It's too quick. too fast cut on purpose for us to having to tear it apart. Let's see, maybe we get a close-up of some headlights. What do something in the mirrors we can see? Can tell that track marshal didn't care about racing at all. I'm too slow for this. Say the trees in the mirror aren't yet full resolution. The flag. But very, you know, he's very the marshal there with the flag, or the fan with the flag. He's waving the flag through wind and weather. Doesn't matter. He keeps waving. That's Imola for sure. And I like this detail in the puddle there. That's really cool that you have some waves started by the wind. That's typical Kunos there. Completely unnecessary. Or here how the water is thrown away by the wiper towards the end of the movement. Slow down. Watch the wipers do their work. Not too bad. But I see, it's just kind of more detailed texture at the end of the day, right? So, oh, that was a Lotus, by the way, right? That's a Lotus in front of an Alpine. And it's the new Imola. It's the new curbs, guys. Some G-forces, dashboard of some car. Oh, it says Alpine, I'm blind. Some Ferrari in a street environment, which I guess that's not a track, so maybe they have these, what did the showrooms in Content Manager. Would be good to have that in the game. That was really nice for screenshots. On Fuji, Hyundai electric car Fuji. Good spot. Well, we'll get there once I speed it up again. Does YouTube have... Look, the horse is 3D as well. It's not just a 2D thing. It moves. Oh yeah, now we have some more detail of the headlight there. Even though I'm not a fan of how the latest Ferraris look, especially that's a weird paint job. When I spend 300,000 on a car, 300k on a car, I'm not gonna make it look like this. This one is important, you say? The reflection, or what do you mean, Flo? With a three-wheeler? Oh, that's a lot of detail here, though, with a carbon reflection of the steering wheel and the matte non-reflection or soft reflection of the light with the rubber grips. But yeah, we haven't been given much. Just a minute. Okay, they had to show the car going over bumps because that's one of the main issues of ACC. The car just lands. We're not just landing in ACC, to say the least. But the road car also has, even a sports road car has that much suspension travel compared to a race car. So it better lands. Anything to take from this? Nordschleife shot, anything in the reflections? The car looks chrome almost. There's traffic and it looks like the street down Adenau. Oh yeah, you know the place apparently. I was lost around the Nürburgring. I need to follow the signs, but okay, let's go further. So more 3D shapes of the car, blah blah blah. Reflections, kind of matte reflections. This one. Kim Jong understeer, yeah, it is a worry I have that for esports crowd, for being, hey, let's be competitive in a certain class or something. I'm just not sure what I should play with what we've seen so far. Just Porsche Cup? So yeah, that seems to be a public road. With guardrails and all, and the sun's coming through the trees. Didn't spot that when we watched the first time. Mods isn't something sustainable in terms of esports. No, because there's too much variety and you don't control the ecosystem. You need to control the ecosystem for, yeah, forcing people together into a big enough group for esports to kind of develop. No, I think Florian had a good point there. Wait in the traffic jam in the roundabout, yeah. You wanted realism, you're getting realism. There's an M4 CZL. That's Fuji, you say? That was too short. Hyundai cockpit. The car I drove, by the way, the Ioniq 5. Very interesting, to say the least. Just heavy. But it does drive like that. It's so interesting with, like it has, well, I don't know if it's 2 or 4 motors, but it can split the torque to any wheel. And you put the power down in this, and it gives you like the perfect RNG slide out of the corner. You just open the steering and the thing rotates automatically, full throttle applied. No, the thing does not roll. I set in it. It does not roll when you set it to sports. With a battery in the bottom. The thing does not roll, so I'm not sure. Old Golf, okay. That's what's a Golf 1. GDI, okay. And a Golf 8, I guess. GT2 Merc, indeed. Anything to spot here? Shadows, a lot of small 3D structure here with a front grille, it seems. Just overall car detail, you know. Airtime. Or we're not... Look what I like. I can't zoom in here, but if you look at the variety of the reflection on the headlights, I don't care about headlights at all, but it's just something that strikes me. It's just a good amount of variety of the reflection there. Is it also more? Let's see again. Go to FPS in the reflections on the headlights. Can make it check a box there. Yeah, but you're not gonna get an esports series when a lot of the teams are partnered with actual manufacturers. Like BMW probably doesn't care too much about us competing in a Golf GTI esports series, right? And I personally don't want to drive a front wheel too heavy road car around a racetrack. It's competitive racing for me is in race cars of some sort, purpose-built cars. I don't know, road cars for me have... it can be nice to throw them around the track, but I don't know. Driving them competitively against others? I'm not sure. But yeah, so, trailer is a stretch, right? That was a teaser, we agree, I guess. Or, do we? Do we? Any hidden stuff we didn't see? January 16th is the date. So, overwhelmed or underwhelmed? Yeah, it was GD2 Merc. Tactical collection on the bookshelf. Maybe we have to check the 1 to 18 models they had on the shelf. Maybe that was a hint. The new XFG of lift for speed, the Ioniq 5. No, the XFG is front wheel drive. It's light. It's shit. I feel the Ioniq is, what is that, 500, 600 horsepower or something? It's not a slow car, and it's not front wheel driven. It's all-wheel drive. With the option to put a lot of that on the rear axle. Ported Gran Turismo? Not even a bad thing. But yeah, it seems much more car game than racing game until here, even though all the footage was on racing tracks except the road, yeah, public road footage. Mini looks bad. What about it? Maybe it's because the Mini is old and doesn't look good in real life. Maybe, you know, maybe out of an old Mini Cooper, they don't actually have 3D models from developing the car because they made it on paper. And I think with newer cars, you make them in 3D software, so you can easily give the 3D model to a sim developer. But a Mini Cooper from 1960s probably doesn't exist that way. Better GT7 for PC? Could be, right? But we haven't, like, there was zero hint about game mechanics or so. That were just cars on tracks. So the only thing we got was content, cars and tracks, features like weather, and some detail there over maybe how the weather will, how dynamic it will be with fogs and 3D clouds or something like that. Then the puddles with a bit of kind of graphic detail. It's gonna look good, which I remember when I had the interview with Ars, he said that graphics for him are as important as everything else. Even though some people would say, well, graphics are nice, but not a necessity in Sims. But I agree with him that the graphic side of things and being as immersive as possible, it needs to look as real as possible. I don't quite feel immersed in Race Room or iRacing. They just look too much game. SRO license for ACC expire. We have no details on that deal, do we? iRacing Pro Race with BS? I don't think so. Like honestly, no, it's not. iRacing is not going to happen. iRacing needs to be reinvented for me to play that on a consistent basis. Not happening. Since we have GT2s and we have the Porsche Cup, there's certainly race cars in EVO. I guess we'll just see over time how many, which cars or classes, if there's something in there that becomes relevant for anything that is esports. But then on the other side, I'm 38, okay? Or no, I'm getting 38, I'm 37. Like I'm not oblivious to the thought of stopping esports at some point and just going content entirely. So we found the exact corner down to Ada now. Looks laser scanned. Well, yeah. Nice. So there's some scan of a public road, you say? Around the Nürburgring. Interesting. Just not sure what they want to do with that. But it's definitely a hint. LMU, if they start adding GT3s. LMU has so few tracks. And personally, still, the driving didn't quite get me. And the tire is... I'm too far away from the tire. It's I'm disconnected with the car in LMU still. Yeah, Guillaume, really, I'm not the person that does make 5-year plans, you know, let alone 1-year plan. Right now, still, there's I've contract. I'm competitive. I'm fast, so I can keep doing this until it stops, basically. But of course, I'm having second thoughts already for after competitive stuff, and also just because I feel the whole competitive driving just makes streaming much more difficult. I'd stream much more often if I didn't have to practice. I'd stream more often random stuff if that wouldn't take away time from the competitive things. And also, I feel people much more enjoy the streams that are more casual. A fun race where you can still drive good, but you don't necessarily have to win. But for us in esports, always about winning. And as soon as we're P10, people don't care, which I get because I don't care. So this is we need to get away from this competitive stuff at some point. Yeah, that's the thing with the practice in esports. You don't want to reveal the lap times you do. You don't want to reveal the thoughts you have around building the setups. You don't want to reveal your practice structure or whatever. You just think you do details different or better than others that you don't want others to know, perhaps. Even though I guess we all do the same, but until we're 100% certain, we're not revealing it. And also during practice, you need to focus a lot. And it's just tricky to have the stream open. Yeah, maybe I just do a beer review channel. I wouldn't have a problem with that. And then also the output would be like 3 beers a day. Though that might cause other problems. Doggo videos? Yeah, but you know, I want to enjoy the time with the dog as well, not so much make her a content victim. Yeah, Florian, bye. Are you were still playing AC, right? you never hopped on ACC, really. Okay, yeah, so we are as much in the dark as before, really, right? Everything we saw in the trailer, plus minus, was already part of the screenshots. So it is now 4 months until there will be something we can play at home. But honestly, when they have this trailer put together and it's set to release in 3.5 months on Steam, there is a Simracing Expo in a month's time. Wouldn't you think the game is far enough to be able to be shown? It's weird they haven't said anything about that. It would be so good to maybe see something on the expo. So it's a good opportunity. Timing would work perfectly. And if the game is so far away from being playable, then it wouldn't be there in January. Yeah. Maybe there was a QR code hidden somewhere in the trailer with a link to another trailer. What I think, so yeah, a straight shooter here. I need race cars, okay? To play something, I need race cars. I need competitive stuff. I don't care for any single player. I don't care for single player. For me, it's about racing. For me, it's about comparing to others. You could go as far as racing being a social experience of sharing the track with others and without talking, negotiating with other drivers, solving corners and solving passes, so to say. Everything is a task, so to say. And while hot lapping is around the task of driving a car fast and pushing it around the track and things like that, I still want the tasks of being better than someone else. Of driving, of having to adapt in these fighting situations on track. So I need multiplayer. A racing sim without multiplayer for me is next to pointless. I wouldn't sit here alone and drive laps. I wouldn't drive against AI because in no game, no matter how advanced the AI is, right? It's always good to some degree, but some things are always odd, and it's the same on iRacing, on Automobilista, on ACC, on Live for Speed, on the F1 game. You always have this thing where in one corner the AI is way too fast, while in other corners it's way too slow, and 10 kilometers already kind of make this way too fast and way too slow. Or 20 or whatever you want to, wherever you want to put the borders. So it's never a genuine experience. You still need AI, like actual AI. The whole topic of AI doesn't seem to be far enough to have actually good, realistic, human mimicking AI experience. It's just not there, apparently. maybe it's too resource intense on the GPUs. Maybe there are no AI experts yet in the sim racing community who could utilize AI capacities to make better AI driving in sims. It doesn't seem to be a focus in any sim, at least. And also, I'm not sure, would I enjoy a fight no matter how good it is with the AI? Because after the race I couldn't go to the AI and talk to them, wow, what a nice pass you made there, or how well I passed you there, what a weird decision, how close that was, because the AI doesn't care about these things, right? So it's very much about the social experience to have with other people. And worst case, you crash and you scream at one another, and you wouldn't scream at the AI because, well, it doesn't care. So no, I think multiplayer is essential to play a game like a racing sim for me. So this needs to be, we need to see. Old AC does have multiplayer, but I never see me play it because you can't go on there and have reasonable multiplayer experience except on LFM, right? How did you manage to stretch the reaction stream longer than Jardier? Because my reaction is genuine and not just, whoa, guys, amazing. We're trying to take something from here. Sorry, Jardier. Sorry, Reba. Yeah, maybe they can teach AI to slur and take you out and things like that. Would be nice. But you get what I mean, right? You need to experience the racing with people, no matter if you like them or not. Yeah, Sophie AI on GT7 is impressive in the sense how it drives alone on track. But is Sophie actually made for fighting with other humans in a kind of credible way you'd expect humans to race and decide? Or is it just good at machine learning, driving the track again and again until it's mastered and found the correct inputs? I haven't driven GT3 cars in LMU yet, so I can't really tell how they are. If they're anywhere like the GTEs, I'll certainly try. Like, we have to try all the sims. Currently, sorry, the bot deleted your message, but I can't reverse it, unluckily. I really wanted to know, I can read it though. Well, but I really wanted to know where they want to go. I still don't know. Fun, competition, two together. It's hard. Exactly, Gunbuild. I'm yet to see what the game is about. Of course, it's cars and driving them around on tracks, but what's the thing that gets people there? What are we driving? Is there a story mode? Do we have to purchase things like Gran Turismo? Do we just get all the cars? Do we compete against one another in ranked multiplayer? Is it gonna be 5,000 different races? Yeah. If I don't make my opinion make you buy or not buy a game. I think the hypercars in LMU, some of them are really good. And I'd say it's the Ferrari and the Peugeot mainly that you want to drive in LMU. But the GTEs they drove like in R Factor 2, and they had a lot of this shopping trolley behavior where you have essentially unlimited front end, and if the car doesn't rotate, just steer more until it does, and then the rear comes around. It was not the GTEs went good, I find. Some others like it, so. And then GT3s, they do behave different than GTEs, because for one thing, they have very different differentials, very different downforce. They are not prototypes, much more neutral than GTEs, because GT3s are also driven by gentlemen, which GTEs are by fair and large not. But it really depends how they feel in that game. And so far, I felt LMU had an issue with front end feel. So if they get GT3s, we'll have to just reevaluate once they're there. Can't judge before. But I think, yeah, what you say, I think EVO will need GT3 cars at least to get the people from ACC over, so we can keep playing on newer physics. Honestly, just the same content of ACC and AC EVO would already work. if AC EVO is just better in every aspect than ACC, and then they can add whatever they want around it for the rest of the world to play whatever they played on old AC with now better graphics and physics and whatnot. Yeah, but bringing those two together, they have very different worlds, right? ACC is a very different crowd from the AC crowd, and gonna be tricky merging them into one game, I guess. So it's either they find something in the center that no party likes, maybe they find something in the center that both parties do like, which would be the key goal, or they lose one group, so they have either or. Yeah, Rensport is the esports goat. It is only esports goat though, with 2,000 fake viewers on Twitch, and the ever same tracks and 4 cars driving in circles without passing one another. Yeah, engaging. Like if AC EVO has enough content on its own, it doesn't need mods. Like that would be the ideal scenarios to not need mods. I get the appeal of it for people that don't find themselves in the variety any game has. But I personally, when I try a mod in old AC, I drive 10 laps and then I ditch it. So I'm just not the guy that is fancying mods so much. I don't care. If the game has enough variety, we're fine. The whole mods aspect is, I don't know. There are so few mods that are actually really good and feel detailed and things like that. Like the IERP 13C or whatever it is. That's a good mod. That's a car that has a lot of detail and a lot of different feeling you can get from there. But yeah, RSS mods, there are some really good indeed, yeah. But there are also a lot of mods that are dull. Not necessarily RSS, but others. But then again, it's not just about driving that car, but driving it against others, right? I need that personally. I need a multiplayer game. If it's just single player, like old Gran Turismo, no multiplayer. Why would I like even the Gran Turismo back then, 1, 2, 3 or 4 even or so, I don't know. I never played alone. Never. I always sat with a friend on the PlayStation and we gave back and forth the controller from mission to mission. I never played that alone because that wasn't interesting for me. So it was also the whole gaming from in the past and the racing. It was always social experience at the end of the day. So I feel that's something that needs to be in EVO for it to be interesting. If Le Mans Ultimate adds GT3 is on LFM, that would be nice. Yeah. Yeah, we are now... So the issue that we're now getting a bit in Simracing is we have the different games, okay, and some games have their own ecosystem, like well, very much just iRacing, where they really have an ecosystem that works, which has enough people where they can populate the variety of content and races they have. And then now you have LFM, which was able to populate ACC in an ordered fashion. Then they added AC and R-Factor 2 and tried around a bit because, of course, as a platform, you don't want to be dependent on one game, which is at the end of life cycle, as we know. So they're also adding Automobilista 2 now with the next patch, hopefully, which gives LFM more variety. And the issue is that now we also start getting more platforms. So there's SimGrid, there is Grid Finder or other stuff, or what's the other one called where Jardia runs his league? I forgot. Or he was at the other one, I don't know. There's 3-4 platforms trying to do the same thing, so we have the same problem again, that the community spreads out. And what we need is, and I think the platforms would do really well if they had like Simracing GP, exactly, if they had a joint rating system. So you could take your rating from LFM and say, well, you know, this week on LFM, the combos, I hate them. So you take it to SimGrid, drive a race there, but it's your same rating, and you get the same rating when you win or lose and whatever, and then you take it to the other platform, Simracing GP perhaps, and then you have your rating there. So what we'd actually need would be a Simracing rating as a central point for Simracing multiplayer, and then you take that to iRacing, and then I'd automatically be reasonably slotted in perhaps in not split 10, right? If I do iRacing with my, I don't know, my account that's been lying there for 2 years, has 3.5k iRating or so, and if I go on a server, I'm probably not going to be in a grid where I should be, but also because iRacing is very particular in the way you have to extract the pace from the car, I shouldn't be in the first grid with 9k, 10k iRating, right? But when, let's say, all the others 10 iRating, it makes sense to be somewhat in the same tire. Monza GT3. Yeah, maybe we just need a Monza GT3, Monza Spa GT3 sim. That would be what we need. Yeah, Victor, it does make sense, but I think some sims are much closer to one another in terms of how you drive them, that you're gonna be quick very quickly. I feel only iRacing has this very high ceiling to improve pace, but if I go on ACC, go to AC, go to Automobilista, go to LMU, I feel I'm pretty quickly close to the top times. Only on iRacing is that I do a decent lap, and then you check the leaderboard and you're missing 10 seconds. Yeah, I think the problem you have in the US is that, I don't know, the road racing, the GT3 racing doesn't kind of have the same standing. You don't have the same amount of people. Maybe if LFM did NASCAR or so, maybe you would have more population from Northern America there online. Or maybe the IMSA stuff could work, right? Because Automobilista 2 has the IMSA license, so maybe once Automobilista 2 comes to LFM, you could kind of draw in the IMSA people that are not on iRacing. Tricky, right? NASCAR car? I think it's a NAS car, but I don't know what NAS means. Is iRacing full of cheaters though? I don't think so, no. AC EVO will need crossplay to have a faster growth community? No, because it's gonna be a long time before there's a console port, if there's going to be a console port at all. So the growth will already have happened on PC. I don't think the crossplay is playing a role. And I don't know, with these sims, they are very CPU intensive and you're very limited on the consoles, so having crossplay means making the PC version worse, remember that. No real surprises in the trailer, I'd say. Oh well, one. We had the public road around, I don't know, which someone identified. Ah, yeah, Cube. We just had someone in the stream who went to Google Street View and identified the corner. And it's around the Nürburgring. A public road around the Nürburgring. NASCAR has really fallen off in US. I think probably was iRacing took over. Now people have sunk cost fallacy. National Association for Stock Car Auto Racing. You can only say it in that voice. Yes, wind ripple in the puddle at Imola, which is great, just not important. Yeah, I think my hopes are different than what AC EVO showed so far. Of course, we're all looking forward and expecting and hoping for better graphics, because you don't make a new game that has worse graphics than what you already have. So I think that's a given. They have to, but they also will achieve better graphics. I personally, I need ranked racing at the end of the day. That's my hope. So we need that. And by racing, I mean race cars. And for my particular position with BMW affiliation and being in an esports team, like, this is where I'm coming from, right? I'm not doing I'm not going to do a Gran Turismo for PC. Because why? Gran Turismo, to level through the game, buy the expensive cars, is a single player experience. I'm not in sim racing for a single player. I'm in sim racing for the social experience, if you will, of hating other drivers after they take you out, or other drivers hating on you after you take them out, or hating on you after you pass them, or just enjoying a close battle with a lot of risk involved in car control. So the social aspect of it, I think, is underrated. So I don't care about any single player stuff, right? If I have to race AI, I'm probably not gonna do the entire race. So I need it. As much as we hate one another sometimes after races, it just needs to be there. So multiplayer is a key aspect, and yeah, there was nothing there yet in terms of multiplayer. But I think Kunos also knows that. They are seeing that ACC is kind of working because of the multiplayer. It's maybe in terms of sales, the multiplayer doesn't matter, but perhaps it's a lot of this streaming and multiplayer stuff that's happening that gets people to buy it even if they never play it. At 992 Cup, there was a GT2 Mercedes as well. Was there another one? Well, the Mini Cooper Hartley's a race car. It's completely fine if AC EVO replaces ACC. That's not a problem at all, right? Because we're sticking to the same crowd and everything. That is, if we just get the GT3s and tracks from ACC and EVO, we can just go on day one, we all swap over ACC dead, and I think everybody would be fine with that. Because as you've seen in recent videos by a lot of people, maybe I have to do a reaction video on reaction videos on Mavic's decision to play iRacing. That people are just getting bored from ACC because they've played all cars on all tracks, and now they're just starting to repeat, and it does get dull, and you keep going through the same issues which every sim has, but there's too little development speed in ACC because the entire team is working on EVO, so it makes sense. And I guess it starts to show in how people tolerate the issues that ACC has. So we all are desperate for newer physics, for new experiences, for just a change. Sometimes is good, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be for the better. You can also sometimes get away with something worse if the experience gets richer and deeper. And that's, I think, where iRacing is really doing something right with their scheduled quarterly big updates. Every time they're gonna say we have tire model 7, now we've new tire model 8, 9, 10, 10.1. Every quarter you're starting over with iRacing and figuring out the setups again. And the driving experience changes a tiny bit, so you always have something new. And this refreshing of things, kind of, even if you drive the same car on the same track, it changes the experience and keeps you engaged. And it takes away some of the boredom that we have in ACC. So the progressiveness of things, that is really important, I think. Okay, I've skipped a few messages here. What will happen with setups? They should standardize things. Well, you mean fixed setups? Fixed setups should be an option for servers, I agree. Just for those people who don't want to spend on setups or spend time on setups. What do you think about ACC? Will it die now? We're yet to see. If there's no multiplayer GT3 racing in AC EVO, ACC is here to stay for a time, and it's going to be a very slow death, I'd say, because then if it doesn't develop any further, people will disperse to other games, but it's not going to be EVO. If you are hardcore GT3, if you play ACC and you can't do at least the same in EVO, I don't think people will play it. So, or what else do we have? The early videos shows more things about physics than this. Yeah, this video was a teaser, not a trailer, right? We agree. Merge ACC and LFM, and we have a definitive game for everyone. Yeah. There's a point to it. Nothing really to disagree with, but we all also know it's not happening. I wish for an iRacing competitor, yes, with a different pricing structure. But I don't see it happening with Kunos and their limited resources. But Kunos grew. You have to see that Kunos was a smaller studio before they went to 505 Games and are part of Digital Bros. But they also have different financial pressures now. But I think it's a bigger studio, more people. Ours not complained about it once, but also in the interview he said a lot of things that it was quite the change for Kunos, that they got a bigger team with much more people working on it when they went from AC to ACC development. And that was a tricky time for them, but eventually they managed to organize everything that they were functioning as a company again, incorporating much more people. So they are more now than they were in initial AC times. But still, maybe small compared to iRacing, I don't know. I don't know the exact numbers of staff. I'd like to do away with LFM2 or just include LFM within the game itself. Yeah, I think what's good having LFM around is that they are much closer to the community, I believe, than Kunos is. So they also have a better feeling for what the community wants and can serve a little better the content and races and formats than if you have the publisher or developer studio defining what people and how people should drive. Then I fear the racing would be very standard. And we wouldn't have the Duo Cup, for example, in LFM, or particularly weird stint lengths and tire rules and things like that. So I think it's good to have third parties take care of the multiplayer to some degree. Because I think in iRacing, all the races are just the same, are they? Or do you have short and long races? And then there is in the races itself in iRacing, do they have variety in terms of rules for that particular race? I'm not too aware. My take on the tweet from Dara, I think he was just frustrated with the Mercedes on the Nordschleife, honestly, because you can feel when you're driving the Nordschleife that there are just some parts on the track where ACC doesn't work particularly well. The more bumpy it's get, the more elevation changes you have, the more speed you have in these places, the more you can see the limits of ACC physics there. And I feel the Mercedes has a particularly hard time in a few corners, especially Schwedenkreuz, for example, just doesn't work well in the Mercedes. And there's too much exploit stuff going on in the setups in order to be fast, so you kind of need it, that you can't make the Mercedes drive nice in these places because you'll be slow over the entire lap. So I get his frustration there, but I wouldn't extend it to the entire game, right? It's kind of a special case with the Mercedes on the Nordschleife in a couple particular corners and with the latest patch and how things have to be driven, blah blah blah. But I feel it's an edge case. It's not ACC in general, but I do get the frustration. Want frame gen and ray tracing lighting in ACC. Will be happy if they just switch to Unreal Engine 5. I don't know. I think they made the right choice going away from Unreal Engine. It did work, but Unreal always has this micro stutter stuff. It's just something that's inherent in the Unreal Engine, and it's annoying unless you have very high frames, high frame rates. Then it's kind of fine. But the lower you are with the frames, the more you'll additionally feel the micro stuttering. Other games with lower FPS are much smoother than Unreal Engine. iRacing LMU are going to pick up a lot of ACC refugees. Yeah, I think especially LMU, because people don't value the pricing structure of iRacing. I think when you're doing ACC, you are making more deliberate financial decisions on buying games, not necessarily smart financial decisions in terms of hardware, but I think it's just something that keeps people away from iRacing. It's just the amount of money you spend for the content, and you need to buy it at the end of the day. So I agree with that. And then the other bit is that iRacing feels so different from all the other games, and for me personally, it never clicked and it never felt credible to me. So even if ACC dies, I don't see myself on iRacing, for example. Werden sich die Die Räder richtig drehen. Ja, das ist auch was mich in ACC stört, Parrot. Aber in AC1 hat es ja funktioniert, also vielleicht ist das auch so ein Unreal-Ding, dass es nicht geht. Ich denke mal, das wird schon wieder klappen, ja. So, you also probably get pressures from other sources, like manufacturers for running specific series if the dev publisher did LFM. Yeah, but LFM would do well if manufacturers reach out and say, hey, do the Porsche Cup series for us, because you're organizing this so well, we have our eye on the community, so we as Porsche, we give you a bit of money, please run a Porsche Cup series for us. Here's some prize money, here's some prices, whatever. Totally works, but there wouldn't be pressure. Ferrari flying on Imola curbs? I don't know, maybe we can solve it with a proper setup. The issue in ACC is also how you are fast with the cars, and that probably leads to issues otherwise. But yeah, we all know. ACC suspension, there are issues that need to be addressed. They shouldn't be an Evo, else people... Like, if... Face it, if AC Evo has suspension issues, people won't play it. Because they expect this to be solved. I'm fairly certain about that. The tweet got a lot of attention. Yeah, I feel there's just a sentiment currently, and people picking up for clicks and likes. Well, they're not wrong about it, right? It's not like there aren't issues in ACC, but it's also not like the issues are particularly new and they are here for, I don't know, a month or something. I think all the issues that ACC has are known for quite a while now. So it's weird that people get upset about it as much as they do in the last couple of weeks. You share the opinion of Mabix that FFB was better before 1.9. I only started with 1.9. Actually, for me, FFB and ACC never changed. For me, it was always the same feedback I got from the cars, more or less. What changed is what the tire likes now in terms of slip angle and how much you can push into the tire, but the force feedback didn't change, I think. The force feedback feels the same. The car just wants a different input. So it's a bit of a differentiation there. What the feedback you get from the game, I think that's the same, but what you need to do is something different. So you have to take that feedback, interpret it differently, and then deploy it into your driving, so to say. Yeah, iRacing essentially does not have enough competition, and that's why they are expensive. But I think also iRacing is investing a lot of, or reinvesting a lot of the money they make. They hired a lot of people. You can see that this year and last year, where they really want to increase their product, which is a good thing at the end of the day. And they also just develop a lot, right? You have these regular updates, you always get new content. It's not like you have to beg iRacing for new content. Maybe you have to beg them for particular content, but in general, content in iRacing is going to come. Some takes longer than others, but there's always new content, always changes to the physics. It's ongoing all the time, and I think that's a really good model. The only thing that keeps me away from iRacing is how the cars drive. That is awful. For me, in the position I am, where I try to make a living on Simracing, I totally pay for iRacing. It's not the problem, right? I get that other people are drawn away from that, but I personally, trying to make money from Simracing, of course you have to invest in the games you play. Not a question. And over the years, spreading the iRacing things I pay over 10-15 years, it wouldn't really matter. It would pay off easily. But yeah, I don't like the driving still, and it doesn't look good. Yeah, indeed. Hypothetical then, if ACC servers are turned off January 16, what sim do you go to? 4 months to go to find out which sim develops the best until then. Probably the Automobilista update would be out. So driving wise, Automobilista. But Automobilista doesn't have the multiplayer and the social aspect I mentioned. So unless LFM would pick it up and kind of manage to do it to the kind of same degree as ACC, for example, or if SRO or IMSA would say, hey, we're organizing an official esports championship on Automobilista 2, wouldn't be the main game, right? It's probably, and I've driven 1.6, okay, I can tell as much. I think the 1.6 update in AMS2 is a really, really good step. The driving is going to be much more immersive, much more credible, and I guess realistic. So from a driving aspect, AMS2 will be up there now, I'd say. The thing is the multiplayer stuff. And if the gameplay in the game actually allows for that multiplayer, even if it's there, to be engaging. There is no driver swap yet, right? So we couldn't do the race we did over the weekend. 24 hours of Nordschleife is simply not possible in Automobilista. Not that I enjoy 24-hour races, but many other people do, and it must be part of a multiplayer experience when you have GT3s and the Nordschleife in the game. That track is about the 24-hour race. So there's just something that isn't quite complete in Automobilista 2, and it would keep people away. And this is just not the Nordschleife and the GT3s alone, it's just kind of the richness of the multiplayer experience that is not up there yet in Automobilista 2. It's not even on ACC level. ACC level is not on iRacing level, right? So AMS2 would be difficult. We're just keeping on with that hypothetical. I wouldn't go to AC, of course, and let's say ACC just stops existing, and AC EVO is going to come in an alpha stage or early access stage with the content they have just shown in the trailer. I'd probably have to make a decision, not do sim racing, do LMU, do iRacing. The thing in LMU is feeling wise, I think they are, there's something that aren't quite right in LMU yet. There are a few things where they need to think more game instead of simulation to make it more accessible, to have more crowd, to have more published lobbies and things like that. It needs to be, time needs to be more condensed. You, like right now, what's the schedule of races? Every 2, 3, 4. It isn't too dense schedule wise, right? And the driving experience so far isn't so rich, I feel. And there are 2 hypercars I'd actually drive, but then the problem is just going over the whole setup side of things. It all has so much depth in the game that you need to really start from scratch. So there's a bit of time investment that needs to be done on LMU before really going for that. And they don't have too much tracks. I don't know where they're heading out. Maybe I haven't quite been able to figure out what keeps me away from it so far, what I don't like about it. But there's something that puts me off so far. We shall see. And the same thing, it's not, LMU is not finished by far, and it doesn't have the functioning state of everything that ACC has, arguably. And their menu structure and things like that, it's just awful usability at the end of the day. Maybe it's just that LMU has bad usability. iRacing cars also sound extremely flat. I would agree, they all also sound the same. What do you think of AC1 FFB? Is it better than ACC? No, don't think so. But it's also fine. What do you think about Rennsport? Doesn't exist for me, honestly. With a way that Rennsport and ESL kind of do work together with a Saudi Arabian prince who sits on trillions of dollars earned from oil sales and reinvest, or puts that in a fund to reinvest that into stirring public opinion towards finding Saudi Arabia a reasonable country and a reasonable political system. Can't get behind that to begin with. And then there's the driving side of things, where Rennsport always felt weird while I was competing on it. Maybe it changed, but I don't care about touching it. There is no reasonable multiplayer experience. They apparently stole intellectual property from Studio 397. Okay, so I'm not supporting that. There's already too much shit on Rennsport where I'm like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. We're not supporting that. There's no point. And they also don't seem to have any strategy or direction. They're just adding cars and tracks kind of randomly, whatever they can get their hands on. But it doesn't seem like there's a, hey, this is what our game is actually going to be. It's just going to be everything. We're going to have mods, and we're gonna have the multiplayer, and we're gonna have this, and we're gonna have that, and what we're actually getting is a car per quarter or track or whatever, and nice trade, and then we get another ESL R1 season, but it's, I don't know, very weird thing. AMS2 isn't that far ahead for LFM multiplayer. What does it mean? It takes. Oh, you mean it's close or it's far away? You mean it isn't that far away anymore? Far ahead sounds like they haven't advanced in their code. So, but I think they're getting. I think we're gonna have it soon. Yeah. Have I given iRacing a longer chance? Yeah, it was actually probably in 2018 or so, or 19, where I played it a bit. But I found the multiplayer experience in iRacing is also pretty annoying, because you're forced through the lower classes and forced through the low ranked players, and I always wanted just to have my chill race, get my iRating, get my safety rating, and I was taken out so much, it's actually insane. And it's that you get penalized for other people's faults is what drove me away in the beginning. So I never got into iRacing before I was driving in the reasonable classes. And I've done sim racing for so much, I just need a skip button for this level up shit. I don't have the time to grind days and weeks to get to the point where I should be driving and where you have reasonable people around. Review on LMU and AMS2, so many game-changing updates. Yeah, though the LMU updates, there are a lot about bug fixing, adding content and stuff, but there are no changes on fundamental level physics, tires and things like that. I feel they're pretty settled currently on that. I think something on the sound changed though on LMU. I just drove it very briefly. AMS2 will certainly do the review once it's out, or I need to message the guys in the forum if I'm allowed to do exclusive preview kind of before it's publicly out. The track argument is understandable though. Their WEC games aren't going to add a track like Hockenheim. ACC also has tracks that GTWC has raced at. Yeah, you're right, but the thing is, ACC has tracks that I want to drive, or I agree to drive, and LMU, I don't know, they're not too interesting. I don't know, and it's just not that many yet. iRacing has the best Gesamtpaket. Yeah, iRacing has the best package. You're not wrong. And if the cars drove differently, they'd wipe the entire market. Really. Maybe if iRacing needs to be a tiny bit cheaper, okay, but if iRacing drove better, if the cars were less sensitive and less trailing responsive and trailing dependent, iRacing would have no trouble to kill all other sims. Yeah, so multiplayer in AMS2 is quite close. That's good to hear. Yeah, I don't doubt that iRacing changed, and I did the Daytona 24 last year, and it was fun, but it is a very different driving style. The iRacing driving style is so relaxed and calm that I do not feel like I'm driving a 600 horsepower aggressive race car that needs to be wrestled around the track and controlled around the track. Everything in iRacing is way too smooth, in my opinion. And you have that in ACC. You have the cars responding to everything on the track in a very detailed manner, and you need to really push the car and squeeze the grip out of the car to get around the corners. And in iRacing, you're always like, please, careful, tiny bit of brake perhaps, maybe just very careful steering here, but just a tiny bit of throttle, okay? Not too much. We don't like to be treated harshly here, okay? It's just not my... It doesn't grab me as what I think racing is, right? I think a race car is a machine that is challenging a driver pretty hard in a lot of aspects, and I don't feel this physical challenge, so to say, in iRacing, because you're just trying to drive with your little finger. Just do very careful inputs. Don't be too fast with anything. Don't overwhelm the car. We're very, very sensitive here, okay? So I don't know, it just doesn't grab me. And in ACC, you have to wrestle the car, you have to push into it, you have to not ask the car, you have to convince the car to go around the turn. And in iRacing, it's like you look at the car the wrong way and it wants to spin. And that's just not how I think the race cars are gonna be. It needs to be harsher. Yeah. The thing is, Dragolin, you will find David Perrell, who's gonna say ACC by far has the most similar driving behavior to some degree. You'll have just one guy in our team who recently drove real life GT3s in Italian GT and GTWC, says he actually practiced on Automobilista to prepare for the race. You will find a driver finding every sim to be the most adequate. So a real life driver feedback is something that is very risky to use, because it differs a lot depending who you ask. It differs a lot on the car that particular driver is driving. It differs on the track he was driving, the weather he was driving, the tire he was driving on, because all these things change how the real life car feels, and it also change what you kind of expect a sim to feel. And that doesn't really get us further, asking real life drivers what game they prefer. It does make sense that iRacing makes you faster in ACC, because in iRacing you are forced to be very clean with the trail braking, and you get a really pronounced response of iRacing, of the game, of the rotation of the car to your trail braking input when it's correct. And in ACC, this response of the car to the trail braking is there, but it is very subtle, and a lot of people miss it entirely. So you need the trail brake in ACC in order to rotate the car, but it's much more subtle and harder to find and come across to squeeze it out. And when you get your trail braking from iRacing, so to say, you'll suddenly find it works in ACC as well, and you get more sensitive to the experience of adding rotation on the brake. So it does make sense that you got better. Baldwin says the braking in ACC is dog shit. That's interesting, because I just talked to David Perrell a couple weeks ago, and he said in the Ferrari, in the GT3, he just kind of slams onto the brake as hard as he can, sends it into the corner, and the ABS sorts him out. There's going to be a little trailing, but don't worry about your tires locking up, so to say. So it is, yeah. So we have a Ferrari GT3 driver who says it's ACC, we have a McLaren driver who says it's ACC to some degree, just not the braking. We have a AMG driver saying no, it's iRacing. So you could say maybe iRacing models the AMG a little better than ACC, but in ACC the Ferrari is closer or whatever, right? So yeah, Which I think I agree. When I watch onboard footage of real GT3 cars and then compare to how we drive in ACC, I find ACC gets really close. But I'm also thinking that 1.6 Automobilista 2 has it's gonna have a say in that. They're not even, Weenie, I'm not even saying that the driver's opinion is wrong. It is probably justified. The thing is that everybody has a different real-life experience, and thus they will look for something different in the sim as well. So they are all right and wrong at the same time. Yeah, I think in ACC perhaps we don't have enough tramlining. And in early 1.8 I think we had a lot of tramlining and people didn't like it. And it was too difficult to control the car when you're on a G25 or something, because the force feedback can't keep up with the tramlining and the car moving left and right. So reducing that a bit helped, perhaps. But also ACC cars, they are all now on the kind of modern aerodynamics of the GT3s that are very, very tolerant to ride height changes and not really having downforce peaks on the nose as much anymore. If you drive older cars in ACC that have more rake sensitivity, so take the Audi GT3 but not the Evo version, the old one, okay? Or take the old Porsche, the cars are very sensitive on the brakes. They are not stable at all on the brakes because their aero balance shifts a lot on the braking, and the modern GT3s just don't have that anymore. Okay, they have the anti-dive in the front to keep the ride height stable at the front. They have anti-lift in the rear to keep the ride height on the rear stable. So they don't have this dynamic rake on the brake as much anymore. And additionally, the aerodynamics are better understood, and rake in the car doesn't change the downforce levels as much anymore. And that's why modern GT3s are more stable cars on the brakes than older generation GT3s. So it all makes sense to some degree as well. Could still be too stable, okay? Let's be honest, graphics do matter a little, and iRacing just horrendous on this. Yeah, and Ambrose Hours there who said that graphics are as important for immersion as is everything else, as is physics, as is sound. And for example, in the 24-hour race we had on the weekend, I tried to have rather high graphic settings and also keep some darkness. So we're actually driving a track in the night, because if we're driving a night race and I'm just cranking up the brightness, lowering the contrast to kind of elevate the overall exposure of the game, and then essentially I don't have night, then I'm killing the entire vibe of a 24-hour race for esports reasons. So this needs to be forced, right? And Demic, you'd be surprised, honestly, if you actually take the esports setups that are driven in the actual esports competition by the winning teams, you would find that they are not just min-max. There's always something that is more deliberate than min-maxing all the sliders. It's definitely not what you buy from Go setups or Hymo setups with dampers min, max, max. It's not the case. Some teams might do that, but I think they're the fastest guys. They have more detail in that. There's always a different damper somewhere, a different spring somewhere, just to alter the balance ever so slightly over the course of the stint. You don't just go min-max. Maybe some cars can take it, some others definitely don't. And while these min-max setups generally work and are low effort and easy to sell, I just don't agree with them. They might be quick on paper, but I think for a lot of people, those setups make a shit experience in the game in general. And I don't know, your choice. If you want to buy these setups, go ahead. I'm not gonna stop you. And there's a point for them if they work. But I think in terms of the experience you get from the game, ACC has a lot more to offer if you try to make a proper setup. You can influence the driving behavior of the car in every driving situation in a much more nuanced way than just going min-max. And that's what I try to do, at least when I sell setups. I'm not going with a min-max. I find it odd to build a min-max and sell it. Dampers can be min as well. Yeah, well, they can also be other things. Your 4090 connectors keep melting? But Fike, that's weird. Just turn on the LSS and the 4090 on ACC will draw, what, like 250 watts? So it's nowhere near the limit as well. And also, I have the newer cables or connectors. What, I have 0 issues even if I run the card at 550 watts. Does ACC has a future, or is everything developed now in AC EVO? I think everything goes into AC EVO. Maybe at some point there will be like a final DLC for ACC or something to stretch the time until AC EVO is trying to replace it or something. But I don't think they will both exist to the same capacity into the future. I'm pretty sure there's ACC is going to have had its time, but it's probably still going to be there just as it is, maybe with small changes even, I don't know, in 2025. So it's not gone yet. I'm pretty sure ACC has at least another year, because AC EVO releasing in early access still has some time to go before it's a complete game, just like ACC had 5 years ago. 6. So Weenie for the X3D stuff in sim racing games is super helpful. Like, they outperform anything else. So if you already have the board that supports it, get the X3D one, because also the AMD chips, they aren't too expensive. It's a worthwhile upgrade. Fike, I did something else to reduce the wattage, and the better option is to undervolt the card, because if you do it with the power limit stuff to 60%, it still uses high voltage but lower megahertz, so you do kill performance, and just with the undervolting you can get same performance at lower wattage. It's a better way. And also there's weird throttling happening with a 60, if you put the power capacity to 60%, it just does weird things. Yeah, I get it, I understand. But even then, the undervolting would be better for you, because it would use less electricity. Yeah, give AC EVO endurance in GT3 and ACC is replaced. It's not, that is the wrong word, because then in theory AC EVO would be the better game and there's no point for ACC. And it's easy to hop over as well, right? It's harder to hop over to iRacing for everybody doing ACC because they start from scratch and have to level through. But just going to EVO would be an easy swap for people. I don't know, it's just a possibility to be out of luck, to be honest. Okay. Wow, everybody's still here. You're really interested in that game. What else do we not cover yet? Let me check. Maybe there was an update in the Automobilista beta forum or something. There wasn't. Gonna take some time still. Thank you, Kyle. I'm happy they still work through 2 patches, which also means when patches change, it only affects the meta. So that's why it makes sense my setups still work, because on the basic level, in all sim racing games, probably the physics work. And if you change the setup from the third stiffest spring to the second stiffest spring, things keep working, right? But if you go to the edges of the setup range, edges of the physics, then all sims are going to break one way or another to different degrees. Yeah, so that's why I guess my setups still work, because they're not trying to exploit anything. Yeah, AMS2 review as soon as we're allowed, mate. Was there anything in the trailer that was not in the screenshots? Yes, we found a public road around the Nürburgring, indicating a public road in the game. But we found road cars, and we found a Porsche Cup race car, and we found the AMG GT2 race car, indicating there is going to be race cars, but mostly seems to be road cars. There were a few tracks. There was rain. We had weather cycles apparently. We had nice graphic details, but there was nothing that you wouldn't expect, I'd say. Yeah, AMG GT2. Yeah. So yeah, that's why I also put the Quo Vadis in the stream title, because we are in very interesting times for sim racing right now, I'd say. I think iRacing is sorted on their side. Their product is working. They have people joining, probably also people leaving, but more are joining in general. The game works, they are developing, they're in a confident spot, but I think all the other sims outside of iRacing, there's uncertainty. Uncertainty in terms of their business model, uncertainty in terms of the content we're going to have, uncertainty in terms of how they're going to drive in the future, uncertainty about how many people are going to pick them up. And which of these, so there's iRacing with a player base and all the content, they are up there, it's fine. But a lot of people don't like the pricing model and they don't like the way it drives, and I'm part of that group. So there's the big iRacing group, and there's a big other group playing racing games or car games that kind of go around all the other games. And what the importance is to grab a big enough chunk of this non-iRacing folks, so to say. And LMU is not done and is going some direction that we don't know. Automobilista is not done while improving, is going into a direction we don't know. Will it offer, and none of these games offers all the things that people will want. LMU has some multiplayer, but not all the features we need. It doesn't have the driver swap, we don't have the long endurance races, because you're limited by your bladder essentially in LMU. Then you have the ACC, which is there with all the multiplayer features, but people are getting bored of the content because it's GT3, and then it's GT3, and then it's another GT3 race on the same track with the same little bugs and annoyances the game has. But at least we can have the driver swap and multi-class, and we can control it ourselves. We're not dependent on Kunos for the game to be used, right? In LMU, we can only really play when we are on using the LMU ecosystem, which kind of limits what the community can choose as their content they want to play. So there are always downsides to all the games. Automobilista 2 does not have proper multiplayer at all, which keeps a lot of people away. And it's constantly evolving, so people don't really have the chance to settle with the game because the next big update is already in the works all the time. And kind of Automobilista is always the game that could be, I feel. So yeah, so all these other sims are struggling to get a grip and to really make a leap and offer all the things that people want to see. And you are, as user, you always kind of have to find the best mixture, but you're not finding everything you actually want to find. And it seems to me ACC is successful because it has the best mixture, even though if there are bugs, even though suspension doesn't work in some cases, even though some things aren't as detailed, the rain isn't as good, but all the things are somehow there. And that's why there is a big crowd playing ACC, because there is a good bit of everything or most things that people want, and all the other games so far just don't have as much of all the things that people want. Apparently, else the user base would be bigger. It's very simple. Cars are too shiny. I think in EVO, if you do a trailer, you wanna show off effects, right? So I wouldn't, yeah, interpret too much into that. Yeah, but VR guy, just Gizmo, sorry. You can install it, but you won't have access to the latest build yet, right? You're gonna have 1.5 in the public build, and what you'd need is the 1.6 beta build, where the majority of physics changes is included. So to get that experience, you just have to wait until it's public. No matter, you feel like you didn't learn anything about what kind of sim ACE is gonna be. Yeah, can only highlight that. You know, iRacing graphics and especially iRacing tires update are... Is it a meme already? They always have the next big tire update. But yeah, maybe new tire model 9 is going to be the one. New game, play as a race director or pilot or both? I don't know. Was it Project Motor Racing or was it... I don't know, I forgot. No, there's something on the Steam, but it feels like a manager game. I don't think you drive at all. Yeah, LMU has that money problem in the backend looming. You're right. AMS2 is all about stuff, more and more content, and not fix the most basic bugs. They do. I feel like they're working a lot. But yeah, some things might stay. The problem is, whenever LMU changes something, the entire content needs to be touched and updated. And with the huge content they have, all of their updates become quite a big amount of work, just because they have to treat each content piece individually. And I feel that holds them back. So the problem is that AMS has gone ahead with content and not with core, so to say. And now they need to fix the core, but they need to fix all the content pieces as that. And it would be much better if they had fixed the core before and then they add content on top of it. And then they wouldn't have to fix the content 10 times. They could start with the finished core and then add the content piece by piece, and now they change the core and then they have to touch every content piece again and again and again. So if you have 100 content pieces, every patch you have to touch 100 content pieces, which would be much better if you had the core and then you add 100 content pieces once you're happy and done. Would reduce the work a lot. So now I feel they're slowed down a lot by the amount of content they have with the core development, right? Yeah, design choice. Why do so few people play Race Room? Old, doesn't look good. Old, doesn't look good. It's, I don't know, the force feedback is kind of dull, I'd say. Got better, but it's... Yeah, it looks better, but it still looks old. Like, did they go from DirectX 7 to DirectX 8 in the latest patch, or was it DirectX 8 and 9? It's still 5 generations backwards or something. Is there active multiplayer? Can you actually do something there? Does everybody have any idea how a tire works in Race Room? What do you have to look out for? It's a dead game. Like, you need a critical amount of players for it to be viable at all. So there's information available out there about that game. Can I go to YouTube, look for a Race Room tutorial that's recent and not from 2008? I'm exaggerating here, right? But there's just no... I don't know. It doesn't live. It doesn't thrive. Yeah, LMU has a bit of the same focus that ACC has, just different cars or different series, but it is limited in that capacity, which forces people that play LMU to play kind of on the same servers and sessions, so you get the experience that there's a lot of people in your race, at least it's populated. But it fights other issues more than that, I think. Are you sure, Yannick? I thought the ones we saw weren't too bad, but maybe we need to just... What do you mean post it on Discord? Okay, we'll look into that later. You didn't mention that it's old and doesn't look... Yeah. There's no community to build. Okay, that's still Race Room, perfect game. Microsoft Flight Simulator, travel across the world. Truck Simulator to drive the race truck to the race tracks. Project Motorsport for the team management and race engineer. And then combine ACC and iRacing. Yeah. Easy done, right? We know what we want. We just need someone to build it. RF2 is dead. Yeah, I mean, you have to see Studio 397 killed rFactor 2 themselves, essentially, with LMU. That's a different path, right? What they did, the problem of rFactor 2 was too much content, players spread out about the entire scene, and now they narrowed down the content so everybody can come together. ACC, everybody's come together, and now there's going to be AC EVO with a variety of content, so people will going to spread out, which is not a good outlook, right? unless they can get all the AC players, which are coming from here or so, back into AC EVO. And then there's going to be a huge amount of people playing it. So the critical mass, so to say, that you need to reach for the thing to work. I don't think price is the thing. The thing in iRacing, you pay the price for the content, because what you get with the content is the racing, the rating, the working platform, the reliability, the whatever thing you get around that. In ACC, you also get the community with the price you pay for the content. And in Race Room, you pay for the content, but you don't get the community part. So you're paying the same, but there's something you get with each game that is not kind of listed in the content or on the store page, right? There's something that kind of the community has value in itself for people to play a game, and Race Room just doesn't have that at all. You mean the Ferrari over the curb? It just bounced once. Yeah, I think we cut out the video too quick. I'm not sure. There was another bounce that where the video just stopped, but I think the car was coming out of the suspension again. But I think it was the car, not the Ferrari. AC is like a cult. Yeah, you know, a lot of the AC players seem to be the one that do YouTube shorts with their 1500 horsepower Honda Civic with 5-meter exhaust flames, skipping through traffic on a 3-way highway, which is the worst thing I would put myself through as a hobby. That is, I don't know, kind of the whole public road, driving with a too fast car on a packed highway, fearless, beat other people, beat the police, and I couldn't care less. Hey Dara, how are you? The graphics are incredible, yeah. Especially if you look closer on the screenshots, there's a lot of detail. I think graphics-wise, I hope they can get it a reasonable performance, but they're gonna throw one out of the park there. Hopefully. But indication is there, and they're not even making a fuss about it or anything, right? They're not going to, they're not over highlighting the graphics aspect or so, right? They're not ultra zoomed on a detail or a reflection or something. It's just there. They show normal content, and all the graphics around, they're just there. They're just happening. Side product, but they look good. Yeah, we don't know, Weenie. I think that's a takeaway, that we don't know where they're heading. But that's an angle. Do you think Rensport missed their chance? You gotta ask Dara. I think they did. I think there was a moment in early 2022 or so when we first drove it, where we were surprised at the Munich event that it was actually already a game and you could drive the cars, even though they drove weird. Where we are, you know, maybe they can get something right. And then they seemed super open to the community and listen, and we're gonna do what you ask, and what do you want, and we're gonna build it. But it turns out over time all this was talk, you know, and the only thing that was fun that came from the community is a figure 8 track. Ha ha ha, so great. Look, it became more of a joke that they reinforced themselves instead of a serious development. I think people asked for different stuff than what they actually put in the game as something they pretended was asked by the community. And then they showed a mod track, which was just a different track. I don't know how you were showing a mod track. It just wasn't a racetrack, it was some country road, and that somehow qualifies as a mod. It's not a mod if they put it in the game. It doesn't make sense, but okay. So yeah, I think they missed their chance, and then this whole Saudi Arabia mess and only doing the esports and having weird delayed releases with little content and the game being weird and everything. And it's not this talk for now, we're talking 3 years now since initial appearance in the community, right? And I feel LMU announcement came much later, and it's now a game that you can play, and people are actually doing it as well, and it's working more and more every day or every patch, so to say. So I think LMU already passed Rensport in that regard, and with the studio having much more experience in Rensport, it's unlikely that Rensport is suddenly going to increase the tempo of development, so to say. Screenshot generator, IMO. So, it's and then Rensport had this thing with people. I get it. Okay, people can't forget about it. Maybe to the people playing the game, it doesn't matter as long as it's good. But this whole stolen intellectual property stuff of Rensport is such a huge red flag to me. That I'm not touching it for the time being. Could be a long time, like forever. Erwin, you mean LMU? Erwin. Yeah, dynamic LED shiny liveries. You probably, Rhoda, you're probably actually some people do. Yeah. Yeah, they're kind of doing this well with the Discord there, I have to say. They're very active. I need to get nose spray. My nose is shutting down. Give me a second there, guys. And bring more questions, okay? When I come back, I need 5 questions. Be right there. A lifesaver. Oh yeah, custom liveries, big thing. Do we see a custom livery in EVO? BS competition livery for BMW M hybrid V8 LMDH car. Oh yeah, in LMU they need custom liveries, but I think they might have a problem with WEC. I don't know if they will allow this, if this is going to be a thing. I get a feeling we're gonna see some weird stuff like we saw in the past with this whole franchise stuff. Look at the Formula 1. Well, the Formula 1 game adapted a bit, but F1 esports has the real teams having esports teams. And I have the fear that LMU might go into a direction where the IRL teams of the WEC series are going to have their own esports scene, which means, yeah, kind of destroying a bit the scene that we already have in sim racing, with a lot of teams being very prominent. So maybe that would be a real downer, I have to say. But yeah, that's just me thinking ahead. Doesn't have to be like that. Dynamic waifu liveries. Biggest potential to disappoint an AC Evo? It's very individual, I think. As I said, I need the multiplayer. If there's no proper multiplayer to drive actual race cars against other people, it will be hard for me. Look, I'm not gonna drive whatever. Well, I'm not gonna do a Mini Cooper race competitively. Couldn't care. And so for me, yeah, it's a multiplayer and the type of content in the multiplayer, I think. For other people, it might be different stuff. So I don't know. What would be your biggest disappointment if it came to be? Yeah, Alpine in G2 is just a weird thing, but I also know there's they have in a certain position they have a French person who's coming from motorsport in G2, and I think he builds those ties between French brand Alpine and G2. that it's gonna be a free roam driving simulator. Yeah, that would also be odd. If it was solely that, at least, you know? If it was one way to play the game to be free roam simulator, like some people do on AC, so they incorporate one part of that, yes. If it's solely that, no. Leon Gelder, aren't there too many racing games aiming for the same group? Yes. And the thing is, none of them offer enough to attract the entire group, right? ACC was the biggest because it combined the most relevant factors, but all the others are missing out a little, right? LMU is going in the right direction, I think, but it's not quite there yet, I feel, because there are things missing from the package. Rain racing is always the first potential disappointment. Yeah. Even though I think it could be perhaps easily done better. I think the trickiest part about driving in the rain is probably the graphical aspect. But driving wise, I think games like AC from Kunos and how the game is built, it's easier than with iRacing, with the entire tire model and approach they have. I feel ACC has it easy to take their engine, tweak values, and mimic wet driving and rain driving, whereas iRacing just works different as a game, as code or whatever. They can't just tweak some values on the tire, it's not going to work. It's a bit more complex for them, so to say. So I think rain racing already in ACC could be much better, because they would just have to invest time and tweak the values they have available to define what rain racing is like. And we had better rain racing in ACC, they just made it too easy over time, which comes probably from making the tires too tolerant in general, and that carries over to the rain. But I still think they could in ACC achieve better rain racing than they have by just tweaking values instead of rewriting the game. Is it still Unreal Engine? No. Kunos ditched the Unreal Engine and went for their own proprietary engine again, which, looking at the trailer, is the right choice because it did look good. So we're not missing out in terms of graphics quality. It's just about probably about the performance of it. LMU say they're limited to the license. Yeah, tricky, right? Gonna be something holds them back in the long run. Weenie, thank you for that, by the way. Certainly gonna be a beer once my Corona aftermath is completely gone, then I'm gonna have a beer again. Do you really think the graphical approach is the hardest? Yeah, I think with rain comes a lot of graphical detail. But I think putting it in practice in terms of driving, I don't know. For competitive racing, don't you think it should be handling like an AMS or LMU with dynamic paddles and lit ray zero grip? We had that in ACC. We had esports races decided by paddles in Spa onto the camel straight because you lost all grip in ACC, and it's just not the case anymore. We have too much grip in the wet. We could have less, I think, if they spent time and tweaked it. Some people avoid tracks if it's raining on iRacing because the average person doesn't practice or have time to practice. Indeed, I agree. The more variety you have in the sim, the more situations you have to prepare for, the harder it is for people to do pickup racing style, right? Because you can't go into a rain race without preparing for it, because your car will drive like shit and you won't know how to brake, and you need to learn each puddle, and then you have a shit experience, so you do a dry race instead to not lose rating. Yep. Someone said in GM stream there are 800 cars in ACC. Yeah, I think everything in the GM stream you have to take with a grain of salt. Big salt. I think they were just memeing. and exaggerating people's wishes and expectations. I think it's 1,500 cars. Oh yeah, right. Got the number wrong. Actually, it's just open mods. Everybody can just add mods, whatever you want. Game won't be released without 10,000 cars. Function over fashion year. No, I agree, but still, if if the racetrack looks the same everywhere but has different grip everywhere, doesn't work. You have to kind of correlate the amount of grip to how it looks. So doing rain physics ties into also having rain graphics. You can't have one without the other, without losing realism in the end. The realism is also about seeing how the track looks underneath you and making a decision where you place the car in hope of finding grip there. So yeah, one thing doesn't work without the other. Not as good, at least. Do they support AC1 mod cars? I doubt, to be honest. Aerial combat evolution. I think we can stick to combat evolution. We just need to. It's auto combat evolution, probably. We're gonna have war in cars on track. 800, like if you go to Gran Turismo, their car choices, well, I don't know if it's choice even, but a lot of the cars in Gran Turismo, they also date back, what, decades by now, right? If you go to some car manufacturers, they only have old cars there. I think it's even BMW and Mercedes and things like that, where they have cars from 10-20 years ago, but they don't have the recent models. You're like, yeah, okay, interesting. Why do I have a BMW E46, something like that, and don't have an E90 or so? Or yeah, modern G3, we don't have the M4, right, in Gran Turismo, we just have the M6 still. Very weird, everything. Do you expect mod support? I think they would struggle to sell DLC. I don't know what to expect. I think for them it makes more sense to sell the DLC themselves, because also the mods are sold at the end of the day, so people are ready to pay, and it's just dumb from Kunos to not grab that money as a company. And when you're a company, you're in the business for making a profit, so when there's a profit to grab for you while producing the content at reasonable cost, then you should do the mods, essentially. Or at least allow people to sell mods through a store in-game and take a cut. That would make sense. So mod support, not wrong if they can earn on it. Just thinking how I would think if I had the company. Very simple. Niels, would it be okay for you if ACC would not focus on esports but more on casual racing? It would be okay for me, but I wouldn't play it, I think. Like, it's not the same for me. How would I start a stream on my Thursday evening where I'm like, hey, let's do a race, let's battle for this win with other people, all on the top level of their performance? That only works when we have racing cars and when there's some esports environment that is also not forced but supported by Kunos. But if we're just gonna have regular scheduled racing inside the game, which is then gonna be, I don't know, we drive a mini cup series on a Thursday evening with some people who don't care too much and some people who care a lot. When we have a wide spread of skill in that grid, then it's probably not interesting, right? So for me it's the dick measuring contest. iRacing Rain is more difficult than the real one though. Rain by definition is going to make you exceed the grip level way more, and that's where iRacing struggles. Okay, good point. ACC was fun, but it's a pain that the devs don't know how racing cars work and have no experience in racing. Probably a stretch. If the fanbase says it want more grip, then you get more grip no matter the real feeling. Yeah, I don't know how the processes work, but I doubt there's nobody with any experience, else they wouldn't have made a racing game. And I know RS also has been in touch a lot with, or try to be in touch a lot with mechanics of real teams and race car drivers and get feedback on what they've been building. But first and foremost, building a simulation is about being able to acquire the scientific knowledge about it. It's all there. Battle Royale, last place DQ every lap. Okay. Very dynamic aspects coming into play here. Track gets shorter. I just can't imagine how manufacturers would be fine with Kunos officially allowing mods that could be attributed to their products. Yes. It would be, they need to filter them, right? They can have external teams do the content, but it still needs to be licensed one way or another, probably. Especially if they're shit, indeed. That is, I can tell you that, like, I spoke a lot internally here in VCO and what we do with BMW, for example. I said, hey, we can do a BMW competition on Live for Speed or so, because there's mod cars that are essentially BMW E30. And it's basically that BMW cannot support such a event or series because it's not officially licensed content. And then it's just the marketing people at the top who are saying, well, we need to make sure that people are getting a genuine BMW experience that it is in line with our communication goals, blah blah blah. So we can't take a mod that we don't know or have control over, and thus we're not doing a series with mod cars. So this very simple stuff, right? iRacing rain is insanely good, and wet tires are also entirely different to dry tires. Yes. But what I also heard is that in iRacing you're driving the dry tire way too much into rainy conditions. It's also too much grip in that scenario or something. Message retracted. Sorry, write it again. When is the next Sended magazine coming? I'm not sure. We're not working on anything currently. I know we had a couple articles that were supposed to come in a later Sended magazine, but they are published online now on the VCO esports website. If you want to go there, there are some articles that were supposed to come in the magazine, but the magazine, yeah, wasn't completed at the end of the day. But if you go to news, I think, oh yeah, Sended magazine, right? I put the link here. There's a couple articles that you haven't read probably. The trailer was already 2 hours ago, mate, so either you go back in my stream or you just go to the official Assetto Corsa YouTube page to watch the trailer. Will Popometer support ACE? We're simple, people. If ACE has a shared memory the same way or similar way we're doing this right now, and if there's a competitive scene and there's interest of people to see telemetry data of how they're driving in ACE, and if they want to buy setups, of course we're going to support it. Not our biggest task, I think. People are just figuring out when the crossover point is. Okay. In terms of driver, the wet tire in iRacing. Overtake owns race department and Porsche owns Overtake. Not looking good for mod community. I don't know. I could imagine that Porsche just really wants to put in money into the sim racing scene from one direction. Surely in a self-interest, but I think that they might also understand that in order for sim racing to thrive and Porsche to benefit from it, they need to allow competition inside that also of other manufacturers. So even if it's their money, they're not going to lock out the community and what it wants, I think. So we shouldn't, you know, there's certainly a bias, but I have a feeling they are aware that they have no interest in reducing variety. If Kunos finds a way, put contents in packages, I think it would help with licenses. For example, you load the GT World Challenge package, then you have to play by its rules, setup rules, BOP rules, etc. Yeah. And I don't see why that wouldn't be possible. It's just a matter of the amount of work, but I think the game and framework that would allow that in general. Why wouldn't it? It's just how much it matters and how much you get extra benefit from it and things like that. It's a resource decision at the end of the day, I think. If iRacing gets a tire model sorted out and new graphics, it will be hard to beat. Yes, but if iRacing were able to sort the tire model out, don't you think that 10, 13 years after its inception they would have? I think the problem is of a different nature, that their understanding of a tire is just a certain one. And when this is their knowledge and they're convinced by it and it's backed up by science, then they have very little reason to go away from it. I'm not saying the iRacing tire is wrong. I think the outcome, how it feels, might be wrong, right? How the tire works perhaps might be perfectly in line with the data they have, with the papers they read. But how it feels for the driver seems... Some things on the iRacing tire just seem exaggerated. That's the problem. If they tone that down, or if they manage to tone that down a little while staying true to the science, that would be it. I was trying to differentiate here a bit, right? Nothing is great or shit in its entirety. Nah, Torque Mad, I think it might be the camera that tilted or shifted your perception there, but I think it's the wind pushing the water into a certain direction in the puddle. But the puddle certainly is in a hole where it can form inside the corner. I'm pretty sure they didn't ignore that much physics, or at least I hope so. There's a certain track state in iRacing where it can be either dry or wet tires, and you have to figure it out through your wheel. Yeah, I see. Well, lap time figures it out eventually. Porsche invested into Rennsport. It's my understanding that at least their seed investment perhaps is from Porsche. And there's also kind of a lot of Porsche cars in Rennsport, so they're giving us hints at least. I'm not trying to hide it, let's say it this way. Do you think having a copy other setups button is a good or bad thing for online racing? Live for speed. So you should not being able to copy from others, but people inside the game should be able to share their setup with another person. Live for Speed had that literally, I'm not even joking, literally 20 years ago. Live for Speed already had the option multiplayer. There's a list of everybody on the server, and behind the name of the person there is a button, share setup. You click that button and the setup gets sent over to the person receiving it. He goes to the garage, says save setup, and you have it. It's as simple as that. And I don't see why AC has this, but not... Was it made by Kunos inside the game, or was it done by... Yeah, iRacing has it as well, but you have to save it in this public folder, so to say, for the server or your team or something, right? But I know, yeah, iRacing has that. But yeah, it's simple stuff that every sim racing game with multiplayer should have, right? It shouldn't just be the driving together, it should also be how you kind of do the game together, right? You also need the game to be multiplayer, not just the driving needs to be multiplayer. All the game functionality also needs to be multiplayer, which is sharing the setup, adjusting the strategy of the car when you do the pit stop, not just as the driver. You also need to be able from other endpoints to control this kind of stuff. Right? Yes, LFS has that share setup thing. Exactly. So, and this is again, sim racing is so small that we're not working with endless and AAA type budgets. So they always have to make compromises everywhere and just throw some things out to keep a better core, or what they decide as what is the desired stuff they want to have in the game. And I guess something like people sharing a setup through the game is just not as important for developers, when people can just grab the file from their game folder and send it via Discord, which is happening anyway, right? So it's, of course it would be nicer, but it's not a necessity, so to say. And to build something like that, hey, this is going to cost us one person a week, which costs us 2,000 euros, and our budget is tight, and we also need to do this and need to do that, and then I can totally see how this falls out your schedule. Okay, I need to read a bit. The guys who worked on the rain are now working on tires. So they're not working on rain anymore. Yeah, but you can't just read different papers because it's not like you can choose you can't choose the science that is available. There's going to be that's how science will eventually end up at one truth, ideally. And you can't just go somewhere else and have a different truth, which is the problem of our time, that people just choose different truths as their own, which don't get me even started. So that's the thing. I think all the sim racing manufacturer or game developers, they all have the same ground truths that they're following, but their interpretation, there's room for interpretation probably at the end of the day, and that's where they go into different directions. If Leon Geller, if you could make a racing game and can take parts of other games, what are the top 5 parts of the current racing games you will take and why? I think that's an easy one, actually. We take the multiplayer experience from iRacing. We certainly, I think currently, we take the driving behavior from Automobilista 2 in the next patch. We'd take game functionality from Live for Speed. And we don't even need... Yeah, we take from the games that are available, we take graphics from ACC, but I think it's fair to say we'll take graphics from AC EVO. And I think in the sound department, we're also taking Automobilista 2. So we actually, for the 5 parts, we need just 4 games. Multiplayer iRacing, graphics AC EVO, because we don't know how AC EVO drives, I would currently say Automobilista 2 has a fair say in how cars drive. Sound, Automobilista 2 as well. And flexibility of the game, user interface, everything that you need to use a game, still Live for Speed. Niels wanted to say thank you for not only Popometa, but mostly for being the sane voice in the community. So you're really trying to keep calm and analyze the different platforms. Thank you for that. I'm trying here every now and then, at least. Okay, let me scroll some further. Old RF2 has an LMU, maybe. LFS has shared time, blah blah blah. Needs credit card integration to games since no one shares the setups. I'm fine with that, as long as it goes into my bank account. Teammates being able to adjust strategy, we had that. It shouldn't matter which driver joins first. Yeah, I think the whole multiplayer in ACC was kind of built as a... It wasn't built from, like, as an idea from the start. Then they would have had built better systems in order to do the multiplayer. It's the ACC multiplayer seems like patchwork that is working decently well, but some things are just not viable with how the game was built from scratch. So I think, while you're right, it would be nice to have that. But apparently there are some limitations in that. G-motor engine is too unstable. Yeah, I think also we... that's from Jelly. I think we need to step away from this generalization with certain game engines or physics engines do this and that and are good or bad, because I don't think anybody really understands what is happening under the umbrella or under the term of a certain engine, a graphics engine, a sound engine, a physics engine, and the term itself is probably not defined enough to say something like that. Do we know that the G-motor engine, for example, is causing instability issues in LMU or R-Factor, or is it something entirely different? What is G-motor actually? Is it the physics framework and environment? Is that failing, or is it the graphics engine, whatever that might be, that is causing issues? So we probably need to be more precise in that regard. And I don't think we can generalize as much in terms of the root cause of some issues that some games have, so to say. So we can agree that something in LMU seems to cause issues here and there on some systems, but I think it got better also since the initial release. Will AMS2 1.6 be good enough to keep us entertained until ACE? I'm too old to play ACC and too poor to play iRacing. Yeah, I think you're a perfectly normal person to start with. It will be about the multiplayer, right? Because when ACC is becoming less interesting to the majority of people, it's because the multiplayer stops being populated. So we need Automobilista 2 multiplayer to be populated. That's the bit that's going to grab people. If Automobilista 2 multiplayer is not going to be populated, you won't be as entertained driving in single player, even if the driving is nice, right? Because if you did ACC, it's probably about the multiplayer. You're actually right with the tire temp stuff. I heard this from the Red Bull guys in the simulator as well, but I think there's probably, we also don't know what they all simulate in detail, but also what you see in Formula 1 going from weekend to weekend, that teams just struggle to understand on some tracks. Some teams manage build tire temperature, some build too much, some build too little. Cause and effect chains might exactly be difficult there, but there still is a theory, for sure. And there's probably an environment where empirical testing in lab conditions or whatever will result in, well, we'll have consistent results. So you'll have a proven part of the theory. But there's also probably some parts, the deeper you go, where understanding is still missing. I agree with that. FFB from R Factor 2 depends on the car, but would generally agree. Also, Automobilista 2 force feedback is fine. Also, ACC force feedback is fine. I think the only force feedback that's not great for me personally is iRacing. But on most, or on a few of the other games, I don't have particular issues. On LMU, oversteer and bumps and all that is fine, but the front end feel, how much you have available, that's not there in the steering wheel, so I'm still missing that in LMU. Let's be honest, guys, with the cost of iRacing, it should be the best in every way. What the hell are they doing with all the money? CEOs gotta eat, guys. Eat a lot. iRacing is doing a fairly good job. You can't deny that. There's just some things that aren't quite working how some people think things should work. They're not doing the perfect job, but they're certainly doing a good job. All the studios that actually managed to publish a racing game that's worked and played, they're doing a good job. I drove the latest update in LMU, but I didn't feel much of a difference in FFB, I have to say. No, I know what's happening in iRacing. The rear end is perfectly present in the steering wheel. That's not the problem. What you don't feel is you don't get a feedback in iRacing's FFB when you go into the trail braking, where you control the entire rotation of the car. I feel that is not represented in the FFB, and I will get if someone says, well, this is also not in a real car's FFB, and we stick to the theory, or we stick to the concept of modeling real life force feedback. And real life force feedback, for example, on road cars is insanely bad. You have zero force feedback in a real car with a lot of power steering, unless they added electronic steering and actually add artificial FFB to your steering, which the Hyundai i30 does, for example. The Hyundai i30 essentially has enhanced understeer effect from Content Manager, right? But it wouldn't be there with normal power steering, because it doesn't exist like that in real life. And the thing for me is, in real life, that doesn't matter because you have the G-force and you immediately feel when the car understeers or oversteers. You don't need anything in the steering wheel. But in the sim, you don't have that, so you need to put it somewhere else. And I think that's a design choice where you say, okay, we take the G-forces and we find something how to deliver it, and you can put it in the steering wheel, in the force feedback, okay? Which is not there in real life, but you have to bring it somehow. And other games are saying, no, we're mimicking one-to-one real life, and if we don't get G-forces, well, we can't, fuck that. But we're not changing our FFB because of that. So that is a design choice. And both argumentations, both reasons are good ones, I'd say. Just for me personally, I'd like more in the FFB than there would be on the real car, because I'm stripped of so much information as a sim driver compared to a real driver, that I like to be fed more information. The thing is, every person perceives or kind of acquires information differently from the world. Some people learn better reading, some people learn better listening, some people learn better writing, right? You know that. There's different types of learners. And sim racing essentially means learning. You're learning the relationships of your inputs to what the car is, or your inputs to the car behavior. And when you're a person that is working a lot with haptic feedback, then you need force feedback to tell you what's happening to the car based on what your input is. And if you are a visual learner, then you're completely fine to stay without force feedback and only perceive the visual changes in how much the car rotates or the environment rotates around you. And maybe some people are perfectly fine just listening to the car, the tire noise, the engine. They can draw a lot of information from that. But I think as a sim racing developer, it would be really good if you had the awareness that people are different, that people perceive the world through different senses, and that you need to provide information through the senses that people are using. And not everybody is using the same sense to make sense of the world. So as a sim developer, to grab more people, to attract more people, you would have to say, well, look, you using that sense, we're going to provide information through that. You using that other sense, we're providing information through that, and that's good. For example, if you have people that are, and we have that in the sim racing community, we have people that have disabilities, we have people that can't see as good, we have people that can't hear as good, we have people that can't do this or that, and they would actually need information through different channels. So you're excluding a lot of people from certain games if you're not providing information through all available senses for the human being. Stop. Let's read some chat. Higher time stuff and professional sims is what they want to do. Professional sims want correlation with the real world. We want to simulate the driving experience. Different goals. Very good point, Inkta Ray. Exactly. We are after different things. We're for the immersion, blah blah blah, and the professional sims, they are looking for something else indeed. Very true. iRacing rented content without buying it, without being a sub. I get that. Played Race Room where you can just test out every piece of content. I get that. Realism doesn't matter to me there because there are no G-forces. No matter what you do in a sim, it can never be realistic. So yes, indeed, force feedback should have more. I agree with that point. Hyundai, you can confirm. Thanks. Yeah, I drove one on Nordschleife. Not making it up, but yeah, it's a thing, right? Very interesting. I feel the i30 also drives nice, I have to say, on Nord. Question for me personally, how's the coaching list going? I've just messaged 3 or 4 people yesterday to make dates, and I'm chopping off the list now that esports is over for this year, more or less. Trying to get into the coaching list and work that. I need to prepare coaching. I have a coaching at 6. Thanks for reminding me. Strange to see detailed force feedback on normal road cars and sims. I agree, but then again, I explained why there's still a point to have that. Yeah, I should do more just chatting streams apparently, but I also guess people wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Assetto Corsa EVO trailer. Even in race cars, the geometry is done completely with performance and tire preservation in mind, and feedback is not a concern. Indeed, which is why, according to LMU devs, why some cars feel a bit wake. See, there's the concept choice they make, which is we mimic the real life forces on the steering wheel because we are a simulation, that's what we do, and they're not thinking further and saying, oh yeah, people don't have G-force and maybe we need to deliver that information somehow through a different channel, and we could do that. It's justified, but not particularly the choice I would make. But even in racing, I know you have it. 499p, for example, turns into the corner, which feels extremely weird as a sim racer, but there was some reason behind it. Yeah. Do you think... Yeah, I get it. I get it, yeah. Suspension construction. You could still have that though, right? And while still adding more stuff to the FFB. You don't necessarily have to remove other stuff from the FFB to add more. There's probably a middle ground. Do you think you'll be doing any esports racing in ACC next year? If there's anything on offer, I would do it for sure. But it depends on if SRO does something or somebody else does something, LFM comes up with something that is driven by a lot of people, VCO being a factor. I think there's still room to do this. ACC is still growing, or at least maybe the growth is slowing down, but it still does growth. We still hit peak player amounts with every DLC that we got. So it's not like people actually abandoning it like some YouTube videos lately want to make you think. ACC is still very much there firmly. So I think there will still be people playing, just maybe those following some streamers currently aren't too interested or something. We'll see. Still sometimes until something else really is there. So I don't see, people might get bored of ACC, but it's still going to be around for a foreseeable future at least. And will you do esports racing if there's nothing in ACC? I'll find something. I don't know, difficult stuff. We'll see how things unfold. I'll do something. I think as a dev, it's a very difficult job. Some people are driving with super expensive gear, other people are driving with belt-driven loggies and such. You need to accommodate everybody and make the driving feel okay. Thank you for your sensible takes, by the way. They're useful. It's true. Like, you have to make it work on a shitty Amazon €80 wheel somewhat, and also on a €2,000 Simicube. You could always do esports on iRacing. Nah, Rody. You know, I'm not my biggest fan, but I also don't hate myself enough to do iRacing. Race Element, are you seeing a healthy usage for your app lately? Might just be because it's summer though. What is your app, mate? I'm giving you your 5 minutes. Have you considered running hacks so you can win potentially the last esports tournament on ACC? One last hurrah kind of thing? Well, I was hoping we could get there without cheats, but yeah, of course we have to look into every option that makes us win, and yeah, the competitive environment forces us to explore every option, and if we need to go further as far as our competitors go, then of course we have to look into additional help. Unlikely, no. I'm a fan of having custom FFB and exaggerated effects and sounds graphic to enhance the experience if you want it. Agree. As a pretty new sim racer, a sim driver, I like that in ACC you can lock up a bit without your wheel getting snatched out of your hands because of flat sports, like an LMU. I feel in ACC you immediately get it when you lock the rears, but you also in ACC it's very hard to lock up because you always have the ABS. Turn off the ABS, turn the brake bias to the rear, and once the rear locks, the rear starts moving in one or the other direction, and you will immediately feel that in the steering wheel as well, and you'll get those snaps. The difference also is that you have GT3s in ACC, they're just not as snappy as hypercars are. So if you lock the tires on a hypercar on the rear, your steering wheel is going to go because the rear is going, and GT3 is just slower in that regard. So it makes sense that you don't get the same intensity of forces. Okay, nächster iRacing Stream, wie wär's mit LFN Events? Ja, da gucke ich auf jeden Fall rein. No, I'll certainly... Look, I want to be open for sims. I'll certainly play iRacing here and there, but I'm fairly sure so far that iRacing is not gonna become my main sim. Everything else really has to fail for iRacing to become my main sim. But there's... maybe I'll just go back to Live for Speed instead of iRacing. What? So, Erwin, what baffles him is the devs that say, we are pure, we only simulate what's there, have no problem sending that very same data to moving rigs or butt kicker. Why not let us use the data in the wheel? Yeah, you're right. LMU fits best. I don't know the context, but perhaps do something. Nothing beats the exaggerated yaw sound of ACC GT3DU. Just makes me feel so immersed. Ah, you mean the tire. It's free and open source app that started out with the ADC, providing HUDs, a setup, viewer comparison, livery manager, lots more. Just search for Race Element Simracing. Aiden uses the chatbot too. Ah, I will. Promise I will. Race Element. I'll open the tab, alright? Give me a second. Race Element. Race Element app. Got it. It's open. I'll look into it. Promised. Oh, guys, since you're all here, you maybe have seen the Nordschleife stream. You maybe have seen something when I was driving. I have recently moved to add real head motion. Real head motion? Because a lot of people asked in the past if I would, and I always said no. I just want my thing to be firm. I don't want any additional stuff. But I invested a couple minutes to look into real head motion. And what I wanted was, and what it achieves, is that I only want the vertical movement of the car around the camera because the Nordschleife is so bumpy. And I had trouble focusing on where the car was going because it was moving all the time and I couldn't look straight. And so I needed a filter. But ACC only provides too many filters, essentially. There's too much movement if you use one of the dials. And I only wanted the vertical movement. And Real Head Motion can do that. So if you are in the same boat, check it out if you haven't. Open source app, blah blah, we had that. Things like suspension chassis sounds were more popular in other sims as well. Also, I have to say, in ACC, the suspension and chassis sounds, they are very repetitive, so I turned them down. There's like, it feels like there are 3 different sounds for everything, and I can't hear them anymore. I really can't. It annoys the shit out of me. You touch the ground with a splitter for 0.1 seconds, and the game starts playing a 2-second soundscape. It breaks me, so I turned it down. Porsche on hard front springs has no problems locking up. Gotta run, Niels. Okay, bye. Sorry, mate. You're probably gone now, but I said bye. Wreckfest 2. Why not? What you don't want to race Team Redline and Max? Yeah, for the views, race Max. But he's probably too fast for me, honestly. Forza Motorsport. Dead. iRacing could change with new physics and they're working. Yeah, but isn't that what iRacing always is? Isn't iRacing always working? We had that before. iRacing always working on their new physics engines that might or might not change things. We'll wait for actuals, not potentials. Fire up Live for Speed. Yeah, we should totally do this now that the off season, we can do a lot of stuff. We should definitely do Live for Speed because it's so nice. You just go to the website. You can host a server now through their web interface. You can say, hey, I want the server with 20 slots. It's going to tell you, hey, this costs 16 cents per hour or whatever per slot. I don't know. You pay, you get a server running, you get password control over everything, and you run it. Really good. That's why I said Live for Speed for user interface is still the way to go in a sim in 2024. Yeah, you're trying to make iRacing appealing to me. I'll certainly have a look, okay? Let's find a special event I'll do maybe with Victor again. LMU suits best as an esports game, narrow content, blah, blah, and stuff. Yeah, perhaps you're right. If you read the last roadmap, they say they have listened to the community and they're working on new physics engine and tire model. Yeah, the thing is the result, right? Working on it is one thing, good. The result is going to matter. But we'll check once it's there. Victor is down, nice. You coming to Expo this year again, Victor? Oh, I'm trying to be there Friday, Saturday. Sim Expo, October 18, 19, 20. I'm going to be there on 18th and 19th. My father's visiting here on 20th, so I gotta be home again on Sunday. But I'll be there Friday, Saturday, Sim Expo. 18th, 19th of October, so in 3 weeks.
Tire patch modeling. Okay, also interesting though, because the tire patch is the most important part of any sim, right? Unfortunate. Then we'll not see you there. I'll see someone else then. Gotta drink my own beer. Yeah, is Live for Speed S3 out yet? I heard it's coming Christmas. What do you think about these AI racing coaches? Any thoughts, Trophy Eye? Ah, Scott, very interesting one. I'm pretty convinced it's not actually AI. That's the first thing. They might do smart data reading there and smart data averaging or something, or good statistics, but I don't think it's actual AI. It's probably clever software, but I'm 100% convinced it's not AI. It's just the, yeah, fancy word currently. And that's why I always that's why I was very focused to say for our platform that once we have better analysis and highlight more things for the user, it's going to be automated analysis following analysis formulas that we built, looking into things that we think are relevant for you to learn better driving. But I'm staying away from dabbling into AI in this regard because it has so shit efficiency for that. And for the platform that I have a very clear image in my head of what is useful information for people to learn better or drive better, and we need to find ways to carve out that relevant information and make it very approachable. And just throwing data into AI is not what is going to bring or surface the relevant information. Yeah, that's the thing with the data. When you want to train an AI, you need a lot of data. You need to clean that data. Like, if you put in shit data and just hope you get something good out of it, yeah, that's the point. Enough good data. And I think that's the issue. And because you have to control for so many factors that is not actually in your data set, right? If you take a motec file, you'll have the driving inputs. You will know the car perhaps. And you have the suspension movement. Everything that's in the motec file you have, okay? But there's a lot of stuff you don't have in the motec file. For example, in ACC, you don't have the track temperature. You don't have the track state. Which grip intensity is there? Is it optimum? Is it fast? Is it 97%? Is it 97.5%? Is it 98%? How do you compare two different data sets without knowing the grip level? Was there rain? No fucking clue. So there's a lot of information that is relevant to the lap time at the end of the day that you have, but it's not in the data. So it's very, very tricky to work with mass data in sim racing because you are missing a lot of data still, and it's very, very difficult to get clean statements at the end of the day, because you will find correlations in the data that are not causation. And the AI doesn't care. AI goes for correlation, not causation. And we might have things causing differences in the data or showing correlation in the data that is not actually in there. So you'd have to have very deep access into the simulation in order to make a big data AI project work in that regard. And that's why we're not doing it, because we don't have that data. For every recorded lap we have in ACC, we need additional information from the driver who played it. For example, the setup file is unclear. The entire setup is unclear. And there are 40 options with 20 different settings, which scales up the potential problem to 800 options we are not seeing that could influence lap time at the end of the day, which we don't have. So we're not going to find that correlation in the data or causation in the data. So it is, by fair and large, I think it's useless. Or the tasks you are having to do is too big. So that's why I'm saying the AI tools that are there are... I don't think they are actually AI. If they are, good on them, they managed to get something out of it. But then I'm questioning if the information they're providing, if it's actually the best it could be, right? It might be good because the majority of players are below the average, so to say, and they can just work with a statistical average as their benchmark. But yeah, I have some questions at least. Might be possible, but I think it's a big task, so I don't think they actually do that. Simracing is not big enough. The money you can earn with that is not enough to probably spend that much on actually spending the resources you need to do an AI project of that magnitude. A lot of speculation there. You bring the beer at Expo? So Rody, you know how I look. I don't know how you look. Please do not hesitate to approach me, okay? It's all good. But if you have 2 beers and you approach me and you hand me one, I'll know. But I have a feeling that's what everybody's gonna do now. So my Expo is gonna be a horrible experience for me. So, super nerdy thing you've noticed in the ACE trailer, they show a miniature model of the Tyrrell 6-wheeler as well as the Morgan 3-wheeler. Maybe they'll have a proper model for cars that aren't 4 tires. Oh, interesting. Do you need a model for cars that aren't 4 tires when you have a basics physics groundwork? Can't you just add tires, remove tires? Everything else should still move reasonably. Okay, guys. Let me quick. I think my coaching is at 6 p.m. and I still need to prepare a little. So I think I'm gonna thank you all for staying with me here this afternoon, and then we're going to have another stream for something soon. Yeah, different weight distribution per wheel, but I don't think you need to adapt your physics formula. You just set the basics of the car, like that's the weight in the front, that's the weight in the rear, there's 1 tire, now please physics, deal with it. So I don't think you need to rebuild the game if you have a 3-wheeler or something. You shouldn't have to. Yeah, but you're right with that, but that's like secondary stuff. I think a game could simulate it, but you'd run into problems with your user interface, perhaps, right? Alright guys, some DMs pop up that I'll have to check, so for the time being I'll log out. We speak very soon. Thank you all for stopping by. It was actually a very successful stream, I have to say. Thank you all for that. Should do this more often, but also I think we can't talk about the same thing every time. Only works so many times. Have a nice afternoon, evening, guys. I'll log off to prepare some coaching, and I'll promise I'll keep working on the coaching list to get to the bottom of it and serve everyone who wants one. So for now, bye. Speak soon.